Brandon, I'll go to you first. What are some reasonable expectations for Marco ahead of his debut? And do you think, I know we were texting about this a little bit when the news broke, do you think this might lead to an opportunity for him to potentially do the Indy-Charlotte double that we haven't seen in quite a while?
Yeah, it's exciting, and that's only a possibility in our head, I guess, because it's at Charlotte. Although, of course, it is on the Roval, and it's in the fall instead of the Memorial Day weekend. But Marco Andretti finally making his NASCAR debut. It's long overdue. If you look at his family history and everything like that, I'm glad that Big Machine has given him this shot. And I think a reasonable result with the Xfinity field the way it is and his road racing experience, yeah, you got to expect at least a top 20. That is, of course, if nothing goes wrong or mechanically, or if he's not caught up in anything like the Tums corner or anything like that on turn one. But he should have a good outing, and we really would like to see somebody do it again, the old Indy-Charlotte double. It's been way too long since we've had a driver attempt it, and just the feat of doing it alone is something to be appreciated, and to recognize the fact that you were going 500 miles at Indianapolis, going through all the day of media and everything, and then you get into a helicopter, take an IV fluid, and then go to Charlotte for 600 more miles. Are you kidding me? It's just superhuman stats, but we've had a few do it. It'd be cool to see Marco join that list, if he's even interested in ovals.
That's true. Josh, go ahead.
I think he definitely would be interested in doing the ovals as well. It's in his blood as an Andretti as well to take it as well. And I think as well, we're going to see him a little bit. It's stock car racing is obviously different to four-wheel racing, but he's got a championship under his belt as well. So I reckon as well, we're going to see him right on the pace, right from the money as well. Marco is such a fast driver as well. No matter what car he's been in as well, he's dominated, whether it be stock car, Indy car, even an electric car. In Formula E as well, he was in for a couple of seasons in Andretti Avalanche, and he was doing really well. I decided to leave it there of his own accord. But I reckon as well, he could be right up there in the weekend double that he's doing. And speaking as well with the double of IndyCar and Charlotte as well over Memorial Weekend as well, I've got this feeling that it hasn't been done since, 2014? Maybe 2015, one of those years?
Kurt Busch was 2014. That's the last time it's been
There you go.
I reckon it could be done. But what we've been seeing with IndyCar recently as well is that if we're in the last couple of laps, we get a red flag and it goes back out again, the amount of cautions it could take. So it nearly caught Busch out, didn't it, in 2014 when the race got stopped just before Montoya won again. And he was looking at his watch anxious because he needed to get straight out there to get to Charlotte. I think he just about made it, didn't he?
Montoya was 15. I think Hunter Ray
was 14. That's 14. It, yeah.
But there was a red flag almost
in the 14 race.
Yeah.
They all blur into one. But yeah, I remember watching that race. So I reckon he could do it, but he's got to be planning bang on exactly what time you're going to be out there, what time you've got to be there as well. And personally, I don't think I could do it. I get stressed commentating in the commentary box with a massive weekend. I have lists as long as my arm about where I am from minute to minute. I don't think I could take it with my level of anxiety. To have so much faith that the race is going to end on time, the plane's going to be taking off on time as well. We're going to get there in time. We're going to get to the circuit on time. The car's going to be. It's just too much stress. It's fun to do, but it's too much stress. But it's an option for him, and I think he could do it. But I think we're going to see him do very well in his upcoming debut as well in the Cup. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, we've got to remember it's not like Marco's an F1 driver who's never been on an oval before. He nearly won the Indianapolis 500 as a teenager, and obviously has years of experience racing on ovals in the IndyCar series. So I think he would be much more open to running a NASCAR race on an oval than maybe a Formula One driver. Like, we'll see if Kimi Räikkönen, of course, he ran the oval 11 years ago when he came over, but also, Daniel Kvyat coming over now. And just, he sounds like he's very serious about his NASCAR career, testing a late model of Hickory for crying out loud. I think that shows how serious he is. But I think the learning curve for those two might be a little bit steeper. Not to say it wouldn't be steep for Marco because the cars are so different, but as somebody who's been on ovals several times before and has had success on the ovals as well, of course, one of Marco's 2 IndyCar wins came at Iowa. I think that transition might be a little bit more reasonable for him to get up to speed a little bit sooner And we could potentially see, with this being the one IndyCar race that he continues to do every year, we'll see how long he continues to do that. But to run the Indy 500 Coke 600 double and to have a name like Andretti doing it, I think that could be great for both series, great publicity for Marco himself, of course. And like you were saying, Brandon, it's been far too long with Kurt Busch being the last one. We need somebody to step up and do it again. I've been waiting for one of the Penske drivers to do it, like Will Power or somebody like that. I think, now that Ganassi is out of NASCAR, Penske's the team that would make the most sense since they have cars in both series. But, Marco might be another opportunity as well. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, as great as it is, that was kind of major speculation on my part because, it is just a Charlotte Oval after all in the Xfinity Series. We're not kind of stepping over a lot of leaps and bounds to get him in a Cup car at the Coke 600, but we'll have to see.
Yeah,
I think he'll go there. Yeah. I think he'll end up there if he does well in the Xfinity Series. A top driver like that, they'll find him a seat probably with the Project 91. Is it 91? I can't remember which one it is. But the same thing with the Raikkonen could be in there. They can shove him in there for a race or two. And it's just IndyCar and NASCAR like doing the big ones, don't they? I think that's a nice, big, juicy story coming into it. And about the Penskes as well, I see Scotty Mack. He could be an option to do the double as well because I think he's got racing experience with stock cars as well over in Australia. So he could do something very good there, and I think he'll adjust quite nicely if he wants to do a double.
Yeah, maybe not 2023, but I think a couple of years down the road, if he is serious about this stock car switch and looking at how he's run in SRX, winning a championship there. I know people have very mixed feelings on SRX, but he did have to beat several legends of motorsport to get that job done. I think, if Marco's serious about this, he could really put a good effort forward, and you could see him in a Cup car in a few years' time, at least on a part-time basis, and maybe run that double as well. And Adam asking the same question here. Could we see somebody do it in the next handful of years? I think we're already kind of on that conversation, but Brandon, do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, I had a wacky prediction just for the future. Just say Trackhouse does a third car for a one-off. They make it number 98 for Marco.
Yeah.
That's
good. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe rename it Project 98 just for that weekend, and let Marco have both numbers there. That would be a cool, fitting way to tie it all in.
I think it could work, couldn't it? Because then you could put the 8 and then you could put the 1 sort of directly down the center, but minimize it a little bit, so kind of gets that little sort of worldy look effect that you see on things. I think that could look quite good. So look, we should be in charge, guys. So I keep saying we should be in charge. We can put this motorsport world to right in a day.
Yeah, I think the number should be available, right? I know the Stewart-Haas Xfinity team uses it, but I don't think anybody's got that number on reserve in the Cup Series.
Not in Cup currently, no.
Yeah. Seth Eves saying the dream is Larson, and I think, unfortunately, that is probably just a dream.
I think,
I don't know if Rick Hendrick would be one of the owners that you would go to that would be open to that. Although I think there's part of that clause in his contract that lets Larson obviously continue to do some dirt racing. But again, the Indy 500 is just such a commitment. And I'm sure the racer that Kyle is, if he was going to do the double, he would want to do it right. He wouldn't want to do it just for the sake of saying he checked it off his list. He would want to put forward a legitimate effort that would have a chance to win the race. I think everybody that we could possibly think of here would want to be doing that. And in order to, I just remember Jimmy Johnson was on the NBC broadcast during the doubleheader at Indianapolis. They were interviewing him, and he was being asked, "What drivers do you think could do this?" And he mentioned it has to be somebody who would be willing to make the commitment, because I think even he's admitted, especially on the road or street courses, to try to make this transition in your mid-40s is very, very difficult. And, if we wanted to see somebody who could do it well and make that transition, you'd have to get somebody who's in their mid to late 20s who could still take a few years to try to make the transition, do it well, do it right, and get the job done and potentially go out there and contend for wins. And Adam as well mentioning Scotty Mack doing the double. That could be an interesting idea as well. But again, Penske has typically been pretty strict about letting their drivers go off and do other things in the middle of the season. So, I think, again, logistically, it wouldn't be too much of a problem considering they have teams in both series, but there is the hurdle of getting approval and also finding sponsorships. So those things do not come super easily. We'd have to take all of that into consideration when thinking about who might be a candidate to run the double again.
Well, just before we go off, I've got the stats I've
Sure,
what
yeah.
you two have been saying as well. Best driver to do it, Tony Stewart, 2001. Chip Ganassi Racing, he finished 6th in the 500, and the Coca-Cola 600 for Joe Gibbs Racing, he finished 3rd across the board as well. He's the best one to do it in history as well. So everything could be better, to be fair. Let's see what could be done. And I can't see anybody else on the stats has improved it. John Andretti's done it. David Jones, Robbie Gordon, Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon again, Tony Stewart again, Robbie Gordon again in 2002, 3, and 4, and Kurt Busch 2015. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers have done it in history.
That's a great trivia question.
Yeah, that is actually, yeah. Let's do a motorsport quiz.
Yeah, and I believe Tony is the only one to actually complete all 1,100 miles out of everybody that's done both races. I think Kurt was probably on track to do it in 2014, but his engine let go in the 600 through no fault of his own, coming up short there. But he had a great run at Indianapolis. So
that year, he did all 200 laps, and he did 271 of the 600 mile race and was 40th overall. But yeah, you are right. Tony Stewart is the only one to finish both races on the same day. So that's what 1,100 miles.
That's right.
He must have woken up with arms the size of Popeye Monday morning. My goodness.
Yeah, a very fantastic effort from Tony. They're still the best to ever do it, but I think that the best you could possibly do is go out and win both races. As unlikely as that might be, there's always room for improvement, and we'll see. I think it would take a talent like Seth was mentioning there. Kyle Larson is maybe somebody who you could think of and see going out to do that, or maybe a Kyle Busch as well, who almost had a deal put together a few years ago. But again, there's so much that has to go into it. It has to be so precisely planned that it's difficult to even get the attempt off, let alone talk about somebody who could win both races. So again, there's all sorts of fantasy dream picks that we could put together, but in terms of getting it all done, we'll just have to wait and see.
And one more thing before we stop, I can't imagine winning the Indianapolis 500 and then having to leave immediately. I think at that point I'd be like, you know what? Call it off. Are
they allowed to leave? Because they've got all that media duty to do as well. I mean, we saw Marcus Ericsson. He was still in his fire suit 24 hours after the end of the race, and he stunk.
I mean, I would hope that they could make an exception or maybe have NASCAR on standby, because, I mean, just like I said, just attempting the double is so rare in and of itself. Mm-hmm. You would hope that, if somehow, some way Kurt Busch had won the 500 in 2014, NASCAR could maybe have been a little bit reasonable and maybe push the start time back a little bit, as IndyCar could also maybe be reasonable, and maybe Kurt will go to victory lane and they'll take a couple of pictures, he'll drink the milk, and then he'll get straight in the helicopter, and we'll save all the big media for the week following after that. But I think they had, if I remember correctly, I think it was Parker Kligerman that was on standby for Stewart-Haas in case something did happen and Kurt couldn't make the start of the race. And then, it wouldn't matter because the driver that starts the race gets credit. So even though Kurt probably would have taken over after the race started, Parker would still get the credit for the results. So, again, so many layers to think of here, including, as Joe reminds us, overtime as well. Not in IndyCar, but I guess it would be more than 1,100 miles if the NASCAR race went into overtime.